What's up, everybody? Today on the channel we're going to be driving the 2026 Hyundai Elantra SEL trim. And so this has been my rental for the week. I've been back up in the Boston area doing some work, and so I've had the car for a week and kind of just, going to give you some impressions today. We're going to go on a drive, see what this thing is about. I mean, we have a naturally aspirated 2.0 four-cylinder making 147 horsepower, 132 pound-feet of torque paired to a CVT. So it's not the best driving experience, or not set up to be anyway. But I will say that these Elantras provide a great value, with this one having a starting MSRP roughly around $23,000 US. So the SEL isn't the base trim, but it's one up from that. And so it does have some added options, such as, we have keyless entry, we have remote start right on the key fob, we have wireless Apple CarPlay, which works really great. Actually, they've made some improvements over my 2021 Hyundai Elantra N-Line that I owned, because that CarPlay would just constantly disconnect, and it was kind of a pain to use. We have the same dual climate control up here in the front. Basically all the same buttons from my 2021 in terms of on the steering wheel controls. I would say the only difference is we have a digital gauge cluster, whereas my car had an analog one with a little digital screen in the middle. As far as these seats go, we just have a standard cloth. They're both manual seats, which is unfortunate. We don't have a sunroof and we don't have heated seats. So there are some missing options where I'm like, kind of stinks, but I understand at $23,000 you can't have everything. But down here we have a 12 volt, we have a USB and a USB-C. We also have a charging pad, which has like an additional little rubber mat to kind of hold your phone in better, because my 2021 just kind of had a flat surface and it didn't hold the phone as well as it should, and it would often slide off the charger and have a hard time coming in contact with the charger, especially because I have an iPhone 15 Pro Max, which is a fairly big phone. But before we jump out on the road, let's take a quick walk around the car, see what this thing is about. So I will leave the name of the color right here down below. I don't know what it's called at the very moment, but it's this lovely gray. We have that paired with 17-inch black rims. Very good looking. As far as the front fascia, of course they updated it for the CN7 Elantras, and I personally did not like it at first, but I think for the non-sport model trims, such as the SE, SEL, but essentially for all the models that aren't the N and the N line, I do think this fascia works a little bit better. Side profile is still that harsh angle on the side there, kind of wrapping in with the passenger side front door. I think overall it's a very aggressive looking design, especially for a non-sport model car. I mean, we even have the little black spoiler here, which I do think looks good. The one thing that I'm missing on this car personally is the LED taillight. That is kind of like the best. I think it just looks so much better because they kind of like white out this part, and it's black here too. Just overall giving a more aggressive style. I always had a hard time when I would fold down the seats getting stuff through, especially if I'm carrying around ladders and whatnot. It's kind of difficult for that. Not the most practical trunk, but we have one, right? I actually left these in the back seat. I was packing today to go back home and I forgot that these were in the back, so I'll leave those up front. Shout out Ugly's Chips, by the way, those are really good. Anyways, I've always been a huge fan of the space in the Elantras. You used to need a Sonata to get an adequate amount of room in the back seats, but that is not the case anymore. I feel like the Elantra is really the car for, anyone who's wanting a sedan. The Sonata still provides a little bit more space, a little bit more trunk room, but overall I think the Elantra is the car that is like the most maneuverable. It's easy to park even in the city, and then you still get adequate amounts of space for 4, even 5 people, though I will say the middle seat will be a hard time fitting an adult with this like hump that comes up here. But as far as things in the back seat, we really just have the 2 USB-C ports. We have speakers on the door cards, and that's really it. I mean, we don't even have cubbies on the back of these front seats, so that's unfortunate, but at 5'9", I have plenty of headroom, plenty of legroom. Not the tallest guy, but you can fit 4 adults in here pretty easily. So in this little digital gauge cluster here, there's a lot of stuff you can play around with. I mean, I personally will just choose to turn off my lane keep assist and leave the rest alone. You can see things such as like your tire pressure in here, which is live data, which is really nice. You can see your fuel economy, which on this trip I've been idling a lot, so we're at 23.5. But for my entirety of the time I've had the car, which has been almost all of that 929 miles, we've averaged 35, which isn't like amazing. I thought, we could probably be in the 40s, especially in terms of, comparing it to that Toyota Corolla we had the last time I was up here. But anyways, 35 is still pretty good, especially getting, regular gas, not having to fill it up with premium. All right, for those who I haven't bored to sleep yet, let's go for a drive. So there's essentially 3 engine options for the Elantras at this moment. And this is before they end up, going to the CN8 generation Elantra. So the CN7, we have, this naturally aspirated 2-liter 4-cylinder. We have the 1.6 turbo 4-cylinder, which is what is in the N line. And then you have the turbocharged 4-cylinder that is in the Elantra N. And that one makes, just under 300 horsepower. So pretty good. I think it's like 276. And personally, I still believe the sweet spot is the Elantra N-Line. It's enough performance to kind of have fun on a daily basis. You get the 7-speed dual clutch. You get, or you could get a 6-speed manual in that car as well. This one just comes with the CVT. And as you can see, it's not very fast. And there's 60. But we do have a couple drive modes which we can go over. We have Sport, Normal, and Smart. The way Smart works is it adapts to your current driving characteristics. So if you're trying to, floor it around every corner, you will eventually end up in Sport. Though I will say it's not all that sensitive. And there I just got into Sport mode. Trying to merge ahead of this Jeep. Woo! And I will say that engine sound is not all that pleasant. I feel like these budget 4-cylinders that are on the lower end of the market just sound quite awful, if I will, say myself. But, I think people who are looking for these Elantras, especially like the SEL, they're looking for a nice budget daily commuter that still has some luxurious features such as the Apple CarPlay, which comes wireless, the keyless entry. I mean, you can just leave your phone and your key in your pocket, which is very convenient. And then personally, I would like this car to have heated seats and a sunroof, and that would pretty much be complete for me. And that's where the N-Line stepped in, because I got a little bit more power and I got, the sunroof and the heated seats. As far as steering goes, this car steers great. It's definitely electronic and has like a very slight delay to it. But I mean, you can just kind of haul around. Like, you can really zip around corners, no problem. I mean, front wheel drive, we're not going to have the best handling. But I feel like this car has a nice balance of being softly sprung enough where it's handling some of those harsh road imperfections for you, which is also, helped by the fact that we only have 17-inch rims, good amount of meat on those tires. But I will say that, this thing still has some sporty characteristics until you get to the powertrain and you're like, oh, I would really like to be able to control the gears myself. Like, personally, if they had like a 6-speed auto where I could actually hold a gear, that'd be really nice. But, you can't win them all. CVTs have been developed to kind of get you like the maximum amount of fuel efficiency out of engines. And I think they're also cheaper to make. That's why, manufacturers have been switching to them constantly. And I mean, with daily driving, just kind of, driving around from point A to point B, the CVT is great. It doesn't kind of like slosh me forward at any point. It's really smooth. You almost can't tell that it's there. and I think that it does a good job at keeping the engine in low RPMs unless you really call for power. My one critique with inputs on this car is that I think the brake pedal is a little bit too sensitive. It took me a few days to get used to it, where I was coming to a complete stop smoothly. You know, where you kind of like want to let off at the last second and then get back on the brake to kind of give you like a smooth stop, especially in terms of like having other people in the car, because they're not really kind of expecting that like jolt forward. I try to do my best to smooth my inputs out. In this car, it was pretty difficult to do so right off the bat, but we did get it done. In terms of visibility, it's great. I mean, we have a pretty nice greenhouse in this car. The mirrors are wide enough where you can really, see those blind spots with not much issue. We do also have blind spot monitoring, and if you put on your directional when someone's in your blind spot, it'll start to beep at you, which is nice. But where we have the poorest visibility is out that rear view, just because of kind of how the back is shaped in this car. But I will say that we have a pretty good backup camera here. Just kind of throw it in reverse here. Check this out. High resolution, and it also has like the ability to kind of turn and show you the direction of your wheel, which is nice. We don't have a 360 view, but I don't think any car at $23,000 US is going to give you that. So for the most part on my drive around for this past week, I've kept it in normal. I feel like the car is very well behaved in that way. In sport mode, it kind of holds on to RPMs a little too much, even when you're just kind of cruising around. So I personally just feel like, oh yeah, let's just leave it in normal. We have the ability to simulate gears in here too. So like you can downshift, and it even gives you a number of the amount of gears. I believe it goes up to 8. And I tried playing around with that. I personally didn't like it, especially because we don't have paddle shifters. So I'd like to, keep both hands on the wheel as much as I can, especially when I'm not driving manual. Like, what's the point of this gear selector if I'm not also engaging with the clutch? But at the end of the day, if you want to be able to control your gears, which don't exist, you can. But needless to say, I think these Elantras are great daily drivers. They often, compete with some of the more higher volume brands such as Toyota with like the Camry and the Corolla. This car, in terms of size, I feel like kind of fits in between those two. And then you have Honda with the Civic and the Accord, but this one really competes directly with that Civic. And I think it does a good job at doing so. The Civics, I drove a 2025 Civic Sport, was the last one I was in. And personally, I feel like that one had a nicer interior. It was just a lot more thoughtfully designed. But this car has the better inputs. It has the better ride quality. Hear her purr. Yeah, so I think 0 to 60 is in like 7.5 seconds or something like that. I'll have the real 0 to 60 here. It takes quite a while to get to 60, but I feel like you have a reasonable amount of passing power, especially like merging power and getting on the highway. It's not a terribly slow car. It just sounds awful giving it any sort of throttle. Oh, there's a spider on me. Not sure where he went now, but we have a friend in the car today. But yeah, in terms of highway speeds, it's pretty well sound deadened in here. It's not terribly loud. I will say having phone calls in here while I'm on the highway has been really difficult. I feel like people often can't hear me, and that's because the speaker is all the way over here. And so if you have your HVAC going, especially like on a hot summer day, not that, today is one of those, but you can't really, I feel like people just can't hear me. I often have to like repeat myself in conversations, And that was the same thing when I owned a Hyundai Elantra. I just feel like the speakers are often better like up here, so my voice is kind of projecting up and I can have a normal conversation like that. The speakers in here aren't as good as the ones I had in my Elantra N-Line, but they're okay. You could definitely get it loud enough in here where you can jam out, have a good jam session, but the bass isn't anything to be desired. Anyways, I feel like these Elantras, especially at $23,000 US, it's a great product, and I think will suit the lives of a lot of people, especially if you're just trying to go from point A to point B comfortably. I mean, we have a manual seat here, but it holds you in tight, gives you a nice feel from the driver's seat, and you can sprawl out, get your seat back far enough. I will say it doesn't go low enough for me personally. I like to sit pretty low in the car, and this one does not do that. But at the end of the day, you're getting a very nice car for $23,000 US. If you guys have any questions, leave them below. Always love to hear from you guys, even if you're just leaving, a small comment. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.